everyone. Welcome back to Speak Unstoppable, the podcast where we use real English to build real confidence. I'm Maria.
And I'm John. And I want to start today with a question. And I want you to answer it honestly, just to yourself, in your head. Have you ever had something important to say? Something you genuinely believed in, and you stayed quiet anyway?
Oh, starting strong today.
Because I have. More times than I want to admit. I have sat in rooms full of people, with a real thought in my head and a real opinion in my heart, and I said absolutely nothing. Because something inside me said, what if they laugh? What if it's wrong? What if I embarrass myself?
And that voice, that small, loud, exhausting voice, is what today's episode is entirely about. We are talking about shyness, about what it really is, where it actually comes from, and, most importantly, how you build genuine confidence when your whole personality seems to be working against you.
And before you think this episode is not for you, let me tell you something. Shyness is not a personality flaw. It is not a weakness. It is not something that is permanently wired into you. It is a habit. And habits can be changed.
You showed up today. You pressed play. And that small act of showing up, that is already confidence in motion. So thank you for being here with us.
This is a B1 to B2 level episode, rich enough to challenge you, clear enough to follow completely. And if some parts feel fast, stay with us. Listen again. You will catch more every single time.
First time, just listen and feel it. Second time, pause, repeat, and steal our best sentences.
By the end of this episode, you will understand exactly why shyness happens, and you will have a real practical system for building confidence that actually works in daily life. Not someday. Starting today.
If Speak Unstoppable is helping you grow, please subscribe and share this with one person in your life who needs to hear it today. One person. That is all. Okay, let's go. I want to tell you about a version of myself that I am not always comfortable talking about. The 12-year-old Maria. Because at 12 years old, I was so shy that I would plan my route through school specifically to avoid passing groups of people in the hallway.
Wow, you would plan a different route?
A completely different route. Longer, less efficient, but safer. Because walking past a group of people who might look at me, might say something, might judge me, felt absolutely unbearable, like a physical discomfort in my chest.
That is such a specific and honest detail. And I think a lot of people listening right now just recognize themselves in that.
I hope they do. Because for years, I thought I was the only one. I thought everyone else was born comfortable and confident and social, and somehow I had missed that day. Like confidence was handed out at birth, and I was absent.
And that belief, that confidence, is something you either have or you don't. That is one of the most damaging ideas about shyness that exists. Because it is completely false.
Completely. And I did not understand that until much later. For years, I just avoided. I avoided raising my hand in class. I avoided speaking in groups. I avoided phone calls. I avoided any situation where I might be seen, heard, or judged. And every time I avoided something, I felt relief. Short, sweet, immediate relief.
But
But every avoidance made the fear slightly bigger. Every time I escaped a scary situation, my brain learned, good, we survived by hiding. Let's hide again next time. And the world of things I felt comfortable doing got smaller and smaller and smaller.
That is such an important mechanism to understand. Avoidance feels like relief, but it functions like fuel. It feeds the very thing you are trying to escape.
Exactly. And the turning point for me came when I was 19. I had to give a presentation in front of my university class. About 30 people. And I was so terrified the night before that I genuinely considered faking an illness. I rehearsed the excuse in my head. I was completely ready to disappear.
But you didn't.
I didn't. And not because I felt brave. I want to be really honest about this. I did not feel brave at all. My hands were shaking when I stood up. My voice came out quieter than I wanted. I made at least 2 mistakes. But I finished. I stood there, terrified, and I finished. And when I sat down, something had shifted. Something small but real.
Because you proved to yourself that you could survive it.
More than survive, I proved that the fear in my head was always bigger than the reality. The thing I had been so terrified of was just 30 bored students who mostly wanted it to be over so they could go to lunch.
That is the truth about fear that nobody puts on a motivational poster. The monster behind the door is almost never as big as the shadow it casts.
Never. And my story is not unique. I want to turn it to you now, John, because I know yours is different.
Very different. Because I was never the quiet, avoid the hallway type. On the outside, I looked confident. I talked. I joked. I was social. But it was performance. Deep down, I was terrified of being truly known, of people seeing my real opinions, my real feelings, my real self, and rejecting it.
That is a different flavor of shyness that people rarely talk about.
Right. Because we usually picture shyness as the quiet kid in the corner. But sometimes, the loudest person in the room is the most deeply insecure one. They are just using noise and performance to protect themselves from the same thing the quiet kid is protecting themselves from: vulnerability.
And vulnerability is the actual heart of this whole conversation. Because real confidence, not performed confidence, not fake it till you make it confidence, real confidence requires you to be willing to be seen. Imperfectly. Honestly. Without a mask.
And that is terrifying. It is genuinely terrifying. But here is what I learned. The people who seem most naturally confident are not people who feel no fear. They are people who have decided that being seen is worth the risk of being judged.
Say that again.
Confident people are not fearless. They have simply decided that being seen is worth the risk of being judged. That is the entire secret. That is all it is.
That reframe changed something in me when I first heard it. Because it means confidence is not an absence of fear. It is a decision you make in spite of fear. And decisions, unlike feelings, are completely within your control.
Which means every single person listening right now, no matter how shy, no matter how long they have been hiding, has the ability to build real confidence. Not because the fear disappears, but because they choose, one small moment at a time, to act anyway.
Okay, let's get practical. Because beautiful ideas without action are just entertainment. Here is how you actually build confidence when you are shy, in real life, starting today.
Tip number 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start acting to become ready.
This is the biggest trap shy people fall into. They wait. They wait until they feel confident enough to speak, until they feel ready enough to try, until the fear goes away. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The feeling of readiness does not arrive before the action. It arrives because of the action.
Think of it like jumping into cold water. Standing at the edge thinking about it makes it worse with every second. The moment you jump, your body adapts. The shock passes. You adjust. Confidence works exactly the same way. You jump first. You adjust after.
Start with something tiny. Speak up once in a conversation today. Ask one question you would normally swallow. Make one phone call you have been avoiding. One small jump. That is all.
You can say, I do not wait to feel ready. I act. And readiness follows.
Tip number 2. Reframe the spotlight.
Shy people tend to walk into rooms believing that everyone is watching them, judging them, evaluating every word and every move. Psychologists actually call this the spotlight effect, the feeling that you are standing under a bright spotlight that everyone can see.
But here is the reality check. Most people are far too focused on their own spotlight to pay close attention to yours. The person you are terrified of judging you is usually busy worrying about being judged themselves.
So the next time you feel that paralyzing self-consciousness, remind yourself, the spotlight in your head is much brighter than the one in the room. Most people are not watching nearly as closely as you think.
You can say, I am not under a spotlight. Everyone is too busy managing their own to focus on mine.
Tip number 3. Use the one-sentence rule.
In any situation that makes you feel shy, a meeting, a social gathering, a class, give yourself one job. Say one sentence. Not a speech, not a perfect, impressive, memorable contribution. Just one sentence. A question. An observation. An agreement with something someone else said.
One sentence does 2 things. It breaks the silence, which is always the hardest part, and it proves to your brain that you survived, that nothing terrible happened, and your brain files that away as evidence that speaking is safe.
Every single time you use the one-sentence rule, you are depositing confidence into a bank account that slowly, steadily grows. You can say, I give myself one job in scary situations. Say one sentence. Just one.
Tip number 4. Separate your worth from their reaction.
This one is the deepest and the most important. A huge part of shyness is the belief that other people's reactions define your value, that if someone laughs at you, ignores you, or disagrees with you, it means something true and permanent about who you are.
But it doesn't. Someone's reaction to you is information about them, their mood, their values, their own insecurities, not a verdict on your worth as a human being. You are not less valuable because someone was unimpressed. You are not more valuable because someone was impressed.
Your worth is not up for vote. It does not change based on the audience. And when you really internalize that, when it stops being a nice idea and starts being something you genuinely believe, the fear of judgment loses most of its power over you.
You can say, other people's reactions are information, not verdicts. My worth is not up for vote.
Let's slow down now and walk through 8 words and phrases from today. These are the words that will make you sound powerful and self-aware when you talk about confidence, shyness, and personal growth.
First, avoidance.
Avoidance means deliberately staying away from something that makes you feel uncomfortable or afraid. For example, my avoidance of public speaking only made my fear of it grow bigger over time. Or she recognized that her avoidance was protecting her in the short term but hurting her in the long term.
Repeat. Avoidance. Avoidance.
Next, vulnerability.
Vulnerability means the willingness to be open, honest, and emotionally exposed, even when it feels risky or uncomfortable. For example, real connection between people requires vulnerability. You have to let yourself be seen. Or, he used to think vulnerability was weakness, until he realized it was the foundation of every relationship he valued.
Repeat. Vulnerability. Vulnerability.
Next, paralyzing.
If something is paralyzing, it makes you completely unable to move, act, or think, usually because of intense fear or anxiety. For example, the paralyzing self-consciousness she felt in social situations stopped her from showing who she really was. Or, his fear of failure was so paralyzing that he stopped trying new things altogether.
Repeat. Paralyzing. Paralyzing.
Next, spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect is the tendency to believe that other people are paying far more attention to you, your appearance, your words, your mistakes, than they actually are. For example, I used to suffer from the spotlight effect until I realized nobody in that room was thinking about me as much as I was. Or, understanding the spotlight effect helped her feel less self-conscious in social situations.
Repeat. Spotlight effect. Spotlight effect.
Next, self-conscious.
To feel self-conscious means to be uncomfortably aware of yourself, how you look, how you sound, how others might be perceiving you. For example, he felt deeply self-conscious the moment he walked into the room full of strangers. Or, being self-conscious is exhausting because you are trying to live your life while also watching yourself live it.
Repeat. Self-conscious. Self-conscious.
Next, internalize.
To internalize something means to absorb an idea or belief so deeply that it becomes a genuine part of how you think and feel, not just something you know intellectually. For example, she had heard that her worth was not defined by others' opinions, but she hadn't truly internalized it yet. Or, it takes time to internalize new beliefs. You have to repeat them until they feel true, not just sound true.
Repeat, internalize. Internalize.
Next, verdict.
A verdict is an official decision or judgment, originally from a courtroom. But in daily life, we use it to mean a final judgment about something or someone. For example, other people's opinions of you are not a verdict on your value. Or, she stopped treating every piece of criticism as a final verdict on her abilities.
Repeat. Verdict. Verdict.
And the last one, in spite of.
In spite of means even though something difficult or discouraging exists, you do something anyway. For example, in spite of her fear, she stood up and spoke. Or, real confidence is not the absence of fear. It is taking action in spite of fear.
Repeat, in spite of. In spite of.
So here is what we want you to take away from today. Shyness is not your identity. It is not a permanent feature of who you are. It is a pattern, a learned, practiced, deeply habitual pattern of protecting yourself from judgment. And patterns can be unlearned. Habits can be replaced. Slowly, deliberately, one brave moment at a time.
You do not need to become a different person. You do not need to become loud or extroverted or fearless. You just need to become someone who acts in spite of the fear. Someone who says one sentence when silence feels safer. Someone who jumps into the cold water instead of standing at the edge forever.
Your confidence is not missing. It is waiting. It is waiting for you to stop avoiding and start acting. And every single time you act, even imperfectly, even shakily, even with a voice that trembles, you are building it.
So this week, here is your challenge. Find one moment, just one, where you would normally stay quiet, step back, or disappear. And instead, say one sentence. Ask one question. Make one move. And then come to the comments and tell us in English what you did. Use any of today's words, avoidance, vulnerability, paralyzing, verdict, in spite of, and write us one honest sentence about your experience.
We read every single comment, and we believe in you, not in the fearless version of you that doesn't exist yet. In the real, imperfect, trying version of you that showed up here today.
This was Maria
And John?
from Speak Unstoppable. Be seen, be heard, be brave enough to be imperfect, and never, ever stop.
See you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Your progress doesn't end here. Keep building the confidence and the English that will change your life. Click on the next episode and keep going.